All right. Whoa. Jeez.
You're loud.
Lord, can the public hear me? I'm going to call to order the Monday, September 16th, 2019 meeting of the City of Falls Church Planning Commission. Miss, how do you say your name? Miss Bazemore, you want to call the roll?
Yep.
Please.
Mr. Rinkin.
Here.
Mr. Puentes.
Here.
Mr. Stevens.
Here.
Ms. Teets.
Here.
Ms. Weiss. Mr. Wadiska. Mr. Krasner.
Okay, we need to adopt an agenda.
Mr. Chair, I move that we adopt the agenda.
I second. Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we have the agenda. We're on to number 5. We have no speaker series. I don't see anyone in the public, but do we have anyone from the public that would like to speak? No? Okay, we have
Have an easy meeting.
two items. The approval of the minutes from July 15th, which I was trying to recall, is a long time ago. Anybody have any comments on that one? It looked like a great meeting based on the minutes.
Mr. Chair, I'll move we approve the minutes of the Planning Commission meeting July 15, 2019.
Can I get a second?
Oh, do you need a second for that?
I don't know.
I'd second.
Okay.
I guess you
All in favor? Aye.
do. Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Moving on to the minutes from our last meeting, September 3rd. Any comments on that one?
I have one comment on line 209. It says the Planning Commission shared that climate change should be better addressed in the document. It was actually in the vision statement. That's
Got
it.
Seems like a simple edit.
Yep.
I admit to having departed before that came up, so to trust you on that. Any other thoughts on this one? Good job getting us the line numbers. See how easy that was? Just go right to line 209 and we're good. All right, I need a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move that we adopt the September 3 minutes as modified.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Abstain.
Aye.
1 abstention, 3 ayes. Okay. Item number 8, informational items, planning commission reports. I have 2 comments. This doesn't really go here, but I'm going to mention them. One is, our last meeting, Columbia Baptist Church came in for variance on the height of their steeple. And they provided some data that suggested that the current steeple is 81 feet above grade and that the Christ Crossman Church across the street was 149 feet above grade. I haven't measured them, but that does not seem correct based on visual inspection. And, you know, they're coming back, but if anyone is in communication with them, I would appreciate understanding how they got those measurements and whether or not they're accurate.
The Commissioner staff is in contact with the applicants for the Columbia Baptist project. We're talking to them about how they're presenting those steeple heights to make sure we understand their methodology. Staff has looked through historical documents and found 2 different numbers for the steeple height, so we're working with them to clear up which one is it.
It's also, it would be a fun, like, homework assignment for some students. You could go out, there's different ways you can measure it. I Googled it, it'd be fun. Maybe I'll do that myself, but there's no chance that one of those is 84% taller than the other one as constructed. And then my other point is, I think I'm on some sort of school board Wi-Fi, I'm not really sure, but I don't think we should have any more planning commission meetings here without internet access. What is the status of internet access in this room for people like me?
So I know there are still a number of systems in City Hall that are being stood up. They are coming online, and it is improving work capacity of the staff. Phones are coming online.
Don't care about phones.
I think Wi-Fi is going to be a little bit later on the list, but
So
I'll
can I
ask about a
request,
date.
before our next meeting, you guys set up a temporary Wi-Fi solution? It seems, we've been here months. Is this a vendor problem or a staff problem?
We can get Wi-Fi for you right now, actually. Most of the planning staff have hotspots on their cell phones, so I should be able to stand up my mobile hotspot or
I guess what I'm
whoever's-
trying to do is give you some ammo here. Is this a staff problem, a vendor problem? I mean, I work in the IT industry. It's ridiculous that there's no Wi-Fi here.
It's a combination of time and hours. But the planning staff, most of us have mobile hotspots on our cell phone, so if the real need is some sort of internet access, we can get that for you.
All right, it's mostly embarrassing. Okay, any actual planning commissioner reports?
I have one. Or
Good.
Would
Go
you
ahead.
like to go first?
Mr. Stevens?
Well, I attended the Architectural Advisory Board meeting and mentioned to them that we had presented to us from Columbia Baptist an updated elevation on the North Washington Street side, which was an issue. And they have not seen that. I said to them that we were very interested in having them see it and share their thoughts before our next meeting. So I would just mention that hopefully the staff liaison can help facilitate that and see if we can benefit from their reviewing that revised elevation.
Cool.
Yeah, I can, right, Jeff Hollern is the staff liaison. I can talk to him about that. I think it's just a question of making sure the meeting dates and the sequencing works out.
Thank you.
Ms. Teets?
So I went to the CACT meeting, and one thing that was really interesting is that they got a bike share update. And you want to guess which station is being used the most?
In front of Harris Teeter.
No, Roosevelt and Roosevelt. Roosevelt Street, Roosevelt Boulevard, makes a lot of sense. People get on it, roll down to the metro. It's very close to me.
Didn't even know there was one there.
Yeah, it's, when they got rid of the dedicated right turn, they re-engineered it, so there's a plaza there with a new,
Smart.
bus stop and put.
And I did
room for
see
bike
that
share.
at the metro station, they smartly moved the bike station over across the street, so it's actually on the metro stop.
They added one, so there's two now.
But I think they took away the one that was on the street, on the other side.
Of Sycamore?
Yeah,
I think it's still there.
No, I thought it was still there,
Yeah,
which it was kind
Maybe
of
I'm
weird that
wrong,
it's
but
on
either
that
way, it
side.
was smart that they put one on the other side.
absolutely.
Yeah, they need one on the other side.
Except they took away a lot of the bike
Excuse me?
The ridership
racks.
stats, or?
Do you know?
Yeah, I've got the, so perhaps, Mr. Starr, you could send this out to the group at some point?
Yeah, we'll include it in the
And I can
director's
pass this
report at
down
the
in a
next.
second, you guys can look at it. But the least used was the Oak and Broad there at Feezy's. They had a person come.
That
to
one was empty the other day.
Well, okay, well, but things change.
No, I mean, I didn't know if it was an error or they were gonna move it or something. It was
Well,
weird.
someone was saying, so we had a person come and they said they didn't think they were moving the bikes around well.
Mm.
But it also said that one thing that they do have a problem with is it seemed to them that most of the bike stations in the center of the city are on one side, on the Feezy side. And that, like the other one on Cherry Street, I mean, well, not Cherry, Park is on this side. That there not as many on the other side, but there is a Harris Teeter one. So I don't know,
And there's one down by the Tinner Hill.
I think no one can be totally happy where these are placed.
Yeah, no.
Based on where it's based on where you live and where you're going.
There was generally a preference to be on the north side of Broad because of the access to Park Avenue. But when the expected destination or generator was on the south side of Broad, like Harris Teeter or the Tinner Hill, the Lincoln at Tinner Hill, Pearson Square, that's when the station was located on the south side.
It was just, like I said, it was just something, he lives on South Spring, so obviously he doesn't want to cross Broad Street
Sure.
to get to the bikes, so.
And the stations
But-
can be moved, right? If it
Well,
turns
and
out
then
one's a
things,
total dud location.
They've talked about this, the previous CACT meeting, there eventually is going to be a better crosswalk in that area. There's going to be a signaled crosswalk. And I think things like that will make it easier for him, because he was just saying right now, currently, it's hard to get over there
Yeah.
sometimes. But I can pass it down if you guys want to look at them. It's interesting to see. The other thing I thought was really interesting is, the city budget had set aside $100,000 for like spot pedestrian improvements. And so they had a meeting with the city council, which I couldn't go to because I think I was out of town then. But anyway, so they did go through and identify a lot of things that they're hoping that money could be used for. Mostly just, replacing pieces of sidewalk, especially missing kinds of sidewalk, which is interesting because Parking Day is coming again on September 20th. And it's going to be on Park Avenue where we just put in a missing piece of sidewalk. So, which I thought was maybe on purpose. I don't know, just say, hey, there's sidewalk here, and we're gonna have games. And
I saw
Mr.
that
Starr will
sidewalk.
babysit for you based on previous parking days.
That's how it played out last time. It was a very enjoyable way to spend a morning.
Yeah, but the other thing that we talked about is, when we were looking at the Lincoln going in, and even previous with the Pearson, we talked a lot about Maple being a really easy street to shut down, because you could shut it down just past Pizzeria Orso so that people could still get in the garage on that side. And Lincoln has entrances on the other side. And so there's I don't know, CSCT was talking about it too, that it would be really fun to shut that whole street down at some point. And, you know, I know, when I was in Guatemala City, they shut down actually about 5 miles of a central boulevard in the middle of the city and on Sunday afternoon after church. And people bring in these little scooters and things, and kids rent them. And it would just be kind of fun, like if we came up with some kind of fun, children-oriented kind of fair little thing that we could do on there. Especially since that's what we wanted to use that street for, and we haven't done it yet. Anyway, so I just wanted to throw that out there. We had a little discussion about that. And that, again, this is all showing that not all streets and parking have to be about cars, that we can do other stuff with them. And so it was a really good meeting, and so that's the main thing that I want to share with you guys. Oh, also the conceptual designs for the Route 7 BRT have started to have come in, and they look pretty cool, the stations and stuff like that. So that's moving along.
Cool. Any updates? We went to the wayfinding
Oh, yeah, the wayfinding.
meeting, which
I
was
forgot about wayfinding.
okay, I thought. Is
It's,
there anything to report? I don't know.
it's just really early. All they're doing now is information gathering, having people fill out questionnaires, and then they had like a roundtable discussion, basically just
Yeah.
asking people what they felt about stuff. So I think the thing that's interesting is if they can come up with a more visible design for, and this includes pointing to public parking, pointing things out the bike trail. You know, it was interesting that they drove all around the city, but they only saw one of our city entry signs.
Yeah, the consultants, I don't know.
They did not see North Washington, East Broad, or West Broad, which are all pretty big ones, and,
Little Falls.
yeah. But I asked them if they really went out of the city and came back in, and I don't know if they actually did. So you're not really gonna see them unless you go all the
Maybe
way
they don't know
out.
where the city starts.
Well, maybe, who knows? But yeah, so it sounds like it's way, way at the beginning,
Yep.
yeah.
All right. Nothing else. I noticed in our correspondence, there's an invitation to some walking tour of the railroad cottages.
It's through the Coalition for Smarter Growth, Stuart Schwartz and his crowd. So it's next Saturday.
And
This
are
coming
From-
Saturday.
Yeah,
Are people going to start at the high school and walk over?
yeah,
Cool.
at the bike share station there on Haycock.
Oh, nice. All right. I think that's all we have. No work session
Director's
items?
report?
No director's report?
Just 2 items for a verbal update. The small area planning process for the West End has resumed, at least at the staff level. We've also reached out and held a stakeholders meeting with several of the property owners in the area on both sides of West Broad Street. And we're looking at a tentative date for a community meeting at the end of October.
All right.
This was work that started several
Avoid
years ago.
Halloween.
Sorry?
Avoid Halloween.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I think we're looking at our traditional format of a Saturday meeting for about 2 hours. I think we've tentatively got the last Saturday in October, which I'm pulling up, which is, I think, the 26th.
Sounds right.
Let's see, the other item I wanted to update the commission on is the e-scooters update. So last week, 2 weeks ago, there were long meetings by both the planning commission as well as the city council. Items on the city council's docket for work session included a look at e-scooters. They were doing a joint work session with the CACT, wanted to make it joint with the planning commission. Given timing, it wasn't going to pan out. But there was a conversation about starting up a joint, a pilot program that by state legislation, communities can continue to regulate e-scooters. If there is no policy or ordinance on the books, then beginning January 1 of 2020, then any scooter company can operate in the jurisdiction until some sort of policy is stood up. So cities looking at best practices from around the region in regards to where the scooters are operated, how many scooters are in operation by each company, what's the permitting process, what about safety regulations regarding age of rider, helmet use, speed of the scooter, learning from best practices. And I think the intent at this point is to launch a pilot program that would run for a number of months. And then as the city is learning not only from its own pilot, but from other operations in the region, the city would come back, city staff would come back to try and formalize that with an ordinance.
So I've only heard like informal reports on how those conversations went, so I don't know much of the details, but I have a couple questions. One, would any rules that we pass for e-scooters for rent also apply to private e-scooter ownership and usership? you know?
No, so yes and no. They could, but I think as the way they're structured right now, they don't. So this is all intended as a policy for e-scooter operators, not for private e-scooters.
Yeah, and
But
then
any regulations that might apply to the use of scooters out on the roads would apply.
Right,
regardless of-
sure, there's already rules that apply. I just, like, if we say, oh, you can, I don't know what you would say, but, yeah, they're not allowed on Broad Street, would that apply to all e-scooters or just the rented ones? And then my general sort of thought on it is, I mean, safety is one thing, but generally, I think we're better off going in with fair, with some rules, but erring on the side of too lax to see if people use them and then tighten it up if we have problems. Because if we go in with too many restrictions, we should just ban them because people won't use them. So some of the feedback I heard, I was like, that seems pretty restrictive, trying to solve a problem. We don't know if it would be a problem. Why don't we actually have a pilot program that's not super restrictive and then identify if there are
Companies
problems?
won't come if it's too restrictive.
What's that?
The companies won't come.
Yeah, if it's too restrictive, they won't bother and it won't ever do it. So that's why I think you have to be careful about being too restrictive out of the gates. Because we can always update it and say, okay, we changed the rules, you can't do this.
Will any of this apply to dockless bikes, e-bikes?
Yes, so the same operations could be apply to the dockless bikes. I think some of the biggest concerns that were voiced at council were the safety of the scooter riders, the safety of folks walking on the sidewalks, and then where do the scooters get left? Those were some of the biggest things people were talking about. So there was this push-pull about open it up and let them operate, or tighten it up and make sure they don't become a nuisance. The staff is planning to coordinate with a number of scooter operators before the policy goes live or gets formalized by a council vote, so that we can understand what the reaction of the industry would
Will
be.
we ever get to weigh in, you think? Like formally?
So given the timeline of trying to get something on the books before the end of the calendar year, at this point, the intent is to bring it back for a council action in, I think, late October or November. Certainly, the draft policy could be floated, but it's not intended to be a formal referral to the boards and commissions at this point.
All right.
Not for the pilot, anyway.
Cool. I will bring my concerns directly to city council then. All right, anything else, Paul?
That is all I had. Thank you.
All right, well then, meeting adjourned. Look at that, world record, 18 minutes. Russ, you see what I'm doing here?